You know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fizzhead Music. This is Urban Politics. And this is 2021, baby. We got a new president, something to be excited about. So as always, we gonna keep the party going. Talking about nothing but the politics. Now, as you see today, I'm wearing my red, white, and blue. At the inauguration, a lot of them were wearing purple. You know, a symbolization of the parties coming together. Unity, you know, between the red and the blue. But I went ahead and wore some red, wore some blue, and then wore the white. Red, white, and blue, baby. You know what it is. America coming together. Let's hope. Do I see it? I'm not delusional, but we pray for the best. That right there is keep the party going. That's me and your boy Doc Giggles. Big up to my man Doc Giggles. That's a fresh little joint. It's all over YouTube if you're interested, but that's not what you're here for. We're not here to talk music. We are here to talk nothing but the politics. So let's get into the politics. Let's get right into it like a car in drive. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to have to go ahead and start with the topic of the day. Impeachment of Trump. Even though he's gone, he is no longer our president. You know, we have a new president. They're still talking impeachment because what he did was egregious. He incited an insurrection at the Capitol. That hasn't happened since the 1800s. So, of course, the Democrats are on one. Nancy Pelosi on one. She said, I'm not willing to just sweep it under the rug. The man's got to be impeached. He's got to be impeached. Like yesterday, they said it'll happen in February. Lo and behold, they say there's an underbelly of the Republican Party that has been thirsting to get rid of Trump. They want to take back the GOP from Trump. Some of them are supporters or ex-supporters, ex-staffers. McConnell says he wants Trump gone. It's in his interest. It's in the GOP's interest. But just how do we get there? I'm like, Mr. McConnell, I'll tell you how you get there. You go ahead and find these other Republicans to sign on for impeachment. Come on now. Look, they need 17 Republicans to get along or to vote with these already 50 Democrats in the House, which is the total House. Every Democrat in the House, of course, said the man should be impeached. He needs to go. He tried to get us killed. And they need 17 Republicans to do it. I think so far they've got 10. So they still need Mitch McConnell. He needs to run his little self around his caucus and find 7 other guys to sign on with this. That shouldn't be hard, but it's going to be a heavy lift, as they were saying on the news. Why? Because a lot of these guys are still beholden to that base. You know, they don't want to run afoul of that base. They need that base. In 2022, when a lot of these, you know, a lot of these House seats and Senate seats come up, they look good getting primaried if they vote, you know what I'm saying, for Trump to get impeached. So they're scared of that. So we'll see how Mitch McConnell handles that, but he needs that to happen because he was hoping that they were saying too, a lot of staff, you know, staffers of him were saying, we're leaking into the press or whatever, saying that he has said quietly that, look, he hopes that this impeachment by the Democrats goes over. He hopes it works. He's thinking that it will help purge. Remember that word. I'm going to talk about that later. He hopes that it helps purge Trump from the Republican Party. So we'll see what happens. That's what's up. The last impeachment, only one Republican was on board with that, and it was Mr. Mitt Romney. And I always tell people all the time, Mitt Romney, that's the money man. That man made the money. That's why he ain't mind impeaching. He don't need nobody for nothing. Mitt Romney makes $57,000 a day. A day. Think about that. Mitt Romney woke up today. He had a cup of coffee. He petted his dog. He had his wife go shopping in one of her 50 Cadillacs. He did something else. He probably overseed more building and adding on to their underground bunker. And then this guy is going to eat a good dinner with his 100 and some odd grandchildren. He's going to go to bed tonight, and he made $57,000 because of his investments. So my point is, Mitt Romney has made of money. I'd like to sit here and say, probably that's not the only reason that he voted again, you know, to impeach Trump. He voted to impeach Trump because he's a man, you know what I'm saying, of his values, and he has that testicular fortitude, and he knew that Trump had to go, but, Yeah, but it helps that he's made of money and he don't need nobody for nothing. That gives you a strong voice, don't it? So there's that. He was the only one who voted on, or the only one Republican who voted on, or who was voted for that impeachment last time, the first time that they impeached Trump. So Trump, he was impeached in the House, not in the Senate the first time. This second time, they're trying to make it stick for real, for real. And for that to happen, they need 17 Republicans to step up and grow a backbone overnight and vote to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. 68% of people say that Trump should no longer be a public figure. That's a good number. That's a big number. That's a strong number. I don't know how it's not 100%. I know how. This is America. I don't know how it's not even more than that, though. But 68% is a lot. Think about that. People say Trump should no longer be a public figure. That means anything. So that means these 68% of people believe, like I believe too, that he should go ahead and be impeached. And if he is impeached, that will stop him from being able to seek office in the future. So in 2024, he can hang that up. What he'll probably do is put his support behind some other conservative nut job who wants to do it. Might be Ted Cruz, might be this Josh Hawley, might be Josh Hawley because he's a little bit younger. Both of them are off the wall cuckoo and some lame guys who don't like to help poor people. So one of them will probably get Trump support. But if he gets impeached like he's supposed to this second time and it sticks, he cannot run for office again. So let's see if that happens. Let's hope that happens. Moving on, I want to talk about another Republican, Marco Rubio says Joe Biden is a president who talks like a centrist but governs from the left. Let me say that again. He said this guy talks like a centrist but he governs from the left. You know what I call that? Good politics. That's exactly what you call it. He's right about that. That's exactly what Joe Biden does. But you know what that's called? Experience. He understands that when I come out here on TV, I can't talk about all this big liberal stuff, all this big social progressive stuff, because people hear that and they've been indoctrinated to think that that means my taxes are going up, it's going to be a lot of spending, and because they're hearing all that crap from the right that they've heard all their lives. Nah, no need to do that. What Joe does is when he's on the microphone, he speaks to the center, because that's a sweet spot in politics. Speaks to that center, but then he goes over here and he signs a bunch of stuff that's kind of leftist, that's kind of helping poor people. I agree with that. I think that's just good politics. I ain't mad at the man. That's what you do. Some of this stuff, and we're going to talk about it, some of the stuff that him and Miss Harris want to do, big progressive spit. I like it. I love it. We need it. So guess what? If he got to go out here and talk like a centrist, but then go over here and do some leftist stuff, that's how you do it. That's how you get it done. Ain't no need to argue it twice. You're already going to argue it when you're trying to push the legislation. Why are you going to argue it here with the American people who don't even really know what's going on like you do? Go ahead and play the middle like Joe does, and then when you go over here and you do some policies, make sure that these policies are pretty much leftist policies, pretty much progressive policies. And like I said, we're going to talk about that later, but I like that in him. Rubio is salty. He's a Republican. I guess you're supposed to be salty. Whatever. What are you mad about? There's some people who need the help might actually get it, Marco. Anyway, moving on. Another reason that he's doing that, though, is because this is the second time Joe Biden has been handed a poop sandwich from a Republican administration. Now, you know what I want to say, but this is a family show, so I don't talk like that here. But this is the second time that he's had to clean up a Republican mess. The first time, him and Barack Obama had to go in there, and we were hemorrhaging hundreds of thousands of jobs a month. That's what they said. When Barack Obama and Joe Biden got in there the first time, we were hemorrhaging hundreds of thousands of jobs a month. I remember seeing an interview with Rahm Emanuel, and he was talking about how he said he was poised to be the mayor of Chicago and deal with some of the rough stuff they got going on, because he said when he worked for Obama, he said that's all we did. He said I got with President Obama, and then we went from room to room, and in 45-minute meeting to 45-minute meeting, hearing about how the world was going to end if we didn't act. He said it was just person after person, department after department telling us, hey, we got to do such and such and such, or the world is going to end. It's over. We're done. This democracy thing, this America thing, we can just go ahead and throw it in the garbage. So he was poised to do that. You know what? Joe Biden was right there too. So he's done this before. He knows how to do it. Like I said, once again, that's a piece of his skill set that makes him a person who's uniquely qualified to deal with what's going on right now. So there's that. Moving on. The GOP needs to purge its gang. Now, I had said this to a friend of mine, and I used that terminology. I said, the GOP, they need to purge their roles. They need to purge their party. And he said to me, you probably shouldn't use the word purge. That has a negative connotation. And I was like, okay, you might be right about that. So you know what? I looked the word up. And literally the second definition of it means to get rid of a group of people who are undesirable. Well, that's what needs to happen with the GOP, so there's no better way to say that. That's what I said. The GOP needs to purge its gang. They need to purge the gang. They need to go through the roles and they need to ask the question, man, are you a trumpeter or are you a member of the GOP? Because those are two different things. Are you a Republican or are you a trumpeter? Now remember, Trump is a populist, okay? And he's got fans. He's got a base. He's got a following. That's cool. But y'all need to go to them and say, look, are you loyal to the guy or are you loyal to the gang? The gang is the Republican Party. The gang is the GOP, the grand old party. Are you loyal to that or are you a trumpeter? Are you loyal to Trump? And they need to figure out what's going on with that. I told that to my Republican friend. He wasn't necessarily feeling it. They need to raise their hands and receive that right now. That's what needs to happen because they cannot have a Republican Party. A house divided will not stand. So you can't do that. You can't be a Crip, but you got Bloods in your party. And some of them are loyal to this particular blood. What? Then how are they going to be in your gang? And I just use that analogy because a lot of people understand Crips and Bloods, red and blue. I've said that all the time. This is gangbang politics. Red states and blue states. It's not much different. So, there that is. Y'all need to figure. And that's why I say y'all need to purge the gang. It's a gang. That's fine. The Democrats is a gang as well. Y'all need to purge your gang and figure out, are you loyal to the man or are you loyal to the party? Now, believe it or not, the Democrats have went through this same thing with this guy right here. Because a lot of people loved him. I loved him. People still love him. Everybody love Barack Obama. He's that dude. He's very charismatic. He was very popular. He was a good president. So they were even saying that after he left, it was like, can we keep this momentum going? Because a lot of people were just into him. Do they necessarily dig the Democrats or dig Democratic values? Kind of, sort of, but they really dig him. They really like him. They like him. They like his wife. They like his kids. They like him. So that was a problem. The only difference, though, is that this guy is a Democrat. He was in the Senate for 2 years. He ran as a Democrat. He was a Democratic senator, when he became president, he was a Democratic president. So the gang that he reps, he's very much a part of. To where Trump, not so much. He reps the Republican gang, but at the end of the day, he's about Team Trump. He ain't about Team Republican. So that's the only difference. But that kind of came up because the Republicans have turned into a cult, the cult of Trump, the cult of the Trump personality. But the Democrats were a cult of the Barack personality. But that's the difference. The cult of the Barack personality was still being in line with Democratic policies. So there's that. They have to deal with that. We're going to move on from there. I want to talk about the new dude, the new guy who's up in there. Joe Biden. He got put in, Wednesday? It was 12 o'clock. 12:01, I breathed a sigh of relief. New president, new dude. Starting over, a guy with some integrity, a guy with some morals, a guy I can get on board with. I've always been a fan of Mr. Joe Biden. I like any other president who's held that office, this guy included. There's some things I don't agree with, but overall, he's a good guy. He's definitely a better man than the last guy that we had in there. So let's talk about him. Joe Biden hits the ground running. He wasn't messing around. 17 executive orders. 10 more about COVID. So he signed 17 executive orders just cleaning up a bunch of Trump messes. And then they said that some of those 17 executive orders were about increasing food stamps by 15%. He did that because we are in a pandemic. And like he said, we are in a crisis. We need to act like we're in a crisis. So that's what he did. And that's what he's doing. So he signed, doing that, increasing food stamp benefits. 10 more were about just COVID. You know, so there's that 17. He added 10 more on that, and them 10 were just about doing stuff with COVID. You know, adding relief to that, giving people PPP and all that good stuff. So great stuff. PPE, good stuff. We also rejoined the WHO. That's the World Health Organization. We needed that. I've talked about that on the show, how important they are to world health, period, but definitely important right now that we're in the midst of a pandemic. That guy got a brain in his head. He jumped back in that. Trump took us out of it. We re-entered the Paris Climate Agreement. That's huge right there. Now, as a side note, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but I got to go ahead and talk about it. Ted Cruz is going to get out there and say that looks like Joe Biden cares more about the people of Paris than he does about, did he say Pittsburgh, people in Pittsburgh's jobs, something stupid. That was stupid. And he knows that this Paris climate agreement ain't got nothing to do with Paris. That's just where it was signed. It's got to do with all the world powers and everybody in the world coming together and saying we're going to do something about this climate thing because it looks good to wipe us off the planet. You know, but this dude gonna say that because he's a Republican and that's the red meat that his base want to hear, so whatever, but that was stupid. So there's that. Moving on. He made Dr. Fauci the chief medical advisor. Yes, of course, Fauci's back in the game and not being silenced. And Fauci said that he was happier for it, of course. He was saying how it feels good to be a part of an administration who, when I go out here and I talk about the science and I talk about the facts, I don't have to worry about losing my job. Or he didn't say, I'm paraphrasing this, he wouldn't say all this. But basically that's what he was saying, is that he feels good about, not, telling the truth and not having to worry about losing his job or not having to worry about the president being jealous because he's more popular. Why? Because I'm a doctor and people want to know how they can live. There's that anyway. Moving on. The GOP is salty as HE double hockey sticks, which is pathetic. Why? If Joe Biden does a good job, that means America is doing better. But these people are so obsessed with winning, so obsessed with having all the power, so obsessed with their ideology being the ideology that is ruling America at this time, for lack of a better term, that they'd rather see the country fail, under Joe Biden, fail under Democratic policies, just to be able to say that we're better and we won. This is not about winning or losing, okay? Because when we lose, America fails. When we lose, people go hungry. When we lose, people die. When we lose, people don't get health care. So I wish they would get off of that. This is not a game of Monopoly. This is not a game of cards, okay? This is not a game of football or basketball, okay? When people lose this game, the stakes are high. Like De La Soul said, the stakes are high. The stakes are extremely high. That's why I love politics. But the stakes are high in this game. And they should be so high that you should not just be interested in your party winning. Okay? So anyway, moving on. Joe Biden says that Trump left him a very generous letter. That's a quote. He said it was a very generous letter. CNN described it as a personal letter that prays for the country and those leading it. Hey, what can I say? Maybe Trump does have a classy bone in his body. Just one. And you know what I'm saying, for those who don't know, that's traditional. Usually the president going out always leaves the president coming in a letter, of just a vote of confidence and like, hey man, you got this and you can do this. This is a tough job, but here's some things that got me through it. God bless you. We're praying for you and you'll be okay. Some of that. And it looks like Trump did do that. Here's a guy who I didn't think respected tradition at all, because he wasn't at the inauguration, and that was a horrible look for America, but an even horrible look for him, and I don't think he gets that, but I think he'll probably get older and he'll grow up a little bit and he'll get that, but it'll be years later and it'll be too late because the time is coming and going. He should have been there. He should have took part in the peaceful transfer of power, but he didn't. But at least he left that note right there, and that lets us know that he respects tradition a little bit, doesn't he? Moving on, 43.6% of people struggled to obtain. I want to talk a little bit more about Biden. Let me preface it with that. Let's get back on to Biden and some of this big progressive stuff he's been doing, because I talked about it earlier. Now I'm going to talk about it for real. Check it out. 43.6% of people struggled to obtain child care in 2020. Under Joe Biden, 100% of 3 and 4-year-olds will have access to preschool. That's huge right there. Let me tell you, I've worked with kids. I've had a career of working with young people, adolescents, everywhere from 25, 26, all the way down to maybe, 2, 3. You know, I worked at a daycare. I've worked in schools. I've worked at different agencies that were commissioned to just get jobs for adolescents and stuff like that. So I'm gonna tell you, that's huge right there, because they said the statistics, and you can go look it up. The statistics are so much better for a child that has had this involvement at 3 and 4 years old than a child that hasn't. Pre-K, that's huge. And who brought you that? None other than the Black Panthers. They were the ones who figured out that, hey, if we get a kid some food in his mouth at an early age and get him interested in school and feed him when he's at school, then he'll stay in school and he'll do better in life. And that is definitely true. The fact that 3 and 4 year olds will have access, and it'll be universal preschool, they said. Universal. So whoever wants it will get it. That is a beautiful thing. I remember Barack Obama talking about it. It's good that Mr. Joe Biden has made it a priority of his administration right off rip. I love that. So that's big right there. Jill Biden, that is his wife, who they say is going to be the first lady to have a full-time job. She's keeping her job. I think she's a professor. She's a professor. She's Professor Jill Biden. And she said she's going to keep on professoring while she's first lady, and I like that in her. But she said she wants free college. Of course, I think she's a professor. She probably works at a college. She said we need to go ahead and make that free. And they're going to forgive student debt. That's huge. Forgive that student debt. Come on now. They want to open up the Section 8 program to every eligible family that qualifies. They say this could lower homelessness by 75%. If all of their proposals are accepted, they could reduce poverty by half. Come on now. That's amazing right there. I want to stop right there. Think about that. They could reduce homelessness by 75%. They could reduce poverty by half. If that right there ain't sold you, come on now. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to what Mr. Rubio was saying. Saying that this guy, we have a president who talks like a centrist, but he governs from the left. If this is what you call govern from the left, and I agree, that's exactly what this is, guess what? It's beautiful, baby. Keep it coming. We need this. That's some good stuff right there. Opening up Section 8. Are you serious? I ride around the ghetto all the time, and I see all these boarded up houses, and then I see all these homeless people on the street. Do that make any sense? Finally, somebody is drawing the connection. How about we put some of these homeless people in these homes? Come on now. And the fact that, you know what I'm saying, you got people like a Rubio, you got people on the right who would sit there and poo-poo that? So what are you saying, man? That you just want there to be some people who are homeless? Some people who just are meant to live in poverty? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Rubio? Because why don't you just come out and say that instead of saying what you saying? Talking about he governs from the left. I think he governs from a guy who wants to look out for people who don't have nothing, who are poor, who are struggling, who are hurt right now, especially right now in the midst of a pandemic. Anyway, moving on. Last point of all of that is a huge point right there. Mr. Bernie Sanders will be the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. If you don't know, he will be holding on to the money. The Senate Budget Committee, they are the committee that basically funds a lot of this stuff that the Senate is trying to do, you know, and the Congress is trying to do. So it's cool that he'll have control of the purse strings, so to speak. And that's a beautiful thing, because like I said, he can get some stuff done, and he can okay some stuff. And he was even on TV talking about it. He said a lot of this stuff needs to happen. He was saying he was applauding how Joe Biden was on board with giving people another $1,400 on top of the $600, but he's also saying that's not going to be enough. He said we got business out here struggling. You know, we got people who can't pay their mortgage, people who can't pay their rent, people who haven't worked in months. We're going to need more money given to the American people. You want to hear your politicians talking that way. Now, for years on this show, I've talked about it. I'm going to say it again. Bernie Sanders, he is a socialist, so he agrees with me that it's definitely time for the government to break bread with the American people. It looks like with Bernie Sanders, that might happen a little bit. Now, how about this? With all that said, and now this just came to my head, man, I just got to go ahead and put this caveat on it. Bernie Sanders does not agree with reparations. He's not on board with that. He said that he didn't agree with reparations. So we probably won't see that. Just to put that in there. But guess what? That is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And maybe he can even be brought along on that. But for now, we do got a guy in there who is going to be looking out for some of the littlest of us, some of the poorest of us. And that's a good thing. So we got to give him kudos for that. So I think that was a great appointment by Mr. Joe Biden of Bernie Sanders, because he is that dude. And once again, he's a socialist. He believes in breaking bread with the American people, as does Phys Ed Music. Moving on. Check me out. Last but not least, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, talking about troops, talking about soldiers in the Army, and how our congressmen and women, my congressmen and women, your congressmen and women, have ished all over them. What am I talking about? Oh, well, let's talk about it. Guardsmen at the Capitol, you seen the pictures, how they were called out there, because they were scared. They should have been. There was insurrection at the Capitol. They all could have lost their lives. Them guys ran in there. They had some bombs and stuff. A lot of them were armed or whatnot. They looked to do harm to some people. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say luckily, I'm going to say unfortunately 5 people died, but glory be to God, it was only 5. It could have been a lot more people. So, yeah, the country is still trying to pick up the pieces. But these guardsmen at the Capitol, they say they feel incredibly betrayed after they were kicked out of the building and made to stay in a parking garage with no Wi-Fi, 2 electrical outlets, and 1 bathroom with 2 stalls for 5,000 troops. These 5,000 troops were what were left over because 25,000 troops were called out to guard the Capitol after that insurrection. Yeah. They said that they were shaking hands at one point and taking selfies with these congressmen and women the day before, and then they said the next day they were being kicked out because they had no need for them, so they just kicked them out or whatever. And it's a trip. Senators on both sides had claimed outrage, were upset. Tammy Duckworth, there's a woman who served, and she's a congressperson, and she's missing 2 limbs because she gave 2 limbs to the Army. She's a decorated soldier. So, of course, she stepped up and she said, I'm going to take care of this. So she made some calls to make things change. And, there were some other people who stood up and they were upset about it. I don't like the fact that as soon as y'all are scared to death, and some of y'all caused this, Josh Hawley, some of y'all, Ted Cruz, caused this. But when these people are there and it looks like they're going to kill you, you call these troops, but then you can't even do them the respect of giving them a place to stay while they're guarding you. And then the moment you feel like your life's not in crisis anymore, you kick them out on their rusty dusty. You don't give them any money. You don't give them a nice place to stay. You just kick them out. And we're always doing the military around here like that. Let me just add this little caveat. I tell people all the time, if you're walking down the street and you see a veteran, a homeless man, he's pushing a cart. A homeless woman, she's pushing a cart. Probably has a flag sticking up out of it. Or you strike up a conversation with them and they let you know I'm a veteran. You should be ashamed. We all should be ashamed. The government should be ashamed because you failed them. That is a veteran. That's a person who fought. And in some cases, some of them have died for this country and then can't get any respect from it. Come back here and can't get anything. Can't get a job, can't get housing, that's just ridiculous. Living on the streets. Homeless in a country that you risked your life for. I've heard some of them talk about how I spilled blood in foreign mud. You went 1,000 miles away from home to come back here and then they treat you like garbage. Won't even take care of you. I don't understand why every vet doesn't have free housing. I don't understand why every vet doesn't have free health care. Whatever. Moving on. This is a problem, or it was a problem. They were scared about the fact that a lot of these servicemen had limited access to a bathroom, and here we are in the midst of a pandemic. Already they said 100 guardsmen tested positive for COVID-19. I think as I was coming on here to do this show today, they actually said now it's like 150, might be more than that, who tested positive for COVID-19. After a pic of the guardsmen on the floor of the Capitol went viral, they were given cots. Why did it take a picture going viral of these guys sleeping on the floor for them to get cots? Really? So that means that congressmen and women walk past them every day, seeing these gentlemen, I'm sure a few ladies in there, sleeping on the floor. They came here to protect you. And they sleeping on the floor. I seen it on the news too. I know y'all seen it. One guy was sleeping, kind of sitting up with his gun on him. The other guy seemed to have his legs crossed. None of them looked comfortable. All of them sleeping on the floor. They couldn't even get a cot. Couldn't get a blow-up mattress. I tell you, it is what it is. With that being said, let me go ahead and get ready to wrap it up. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm running out of time. My time is drawing nigh. I wanted to talk about one of my favorite IPAs. This right here is called, let me get it in there, Voodoo Ranger. It is a juicy, hazy IPA. and it is 7.5% alcohol. So it's a little less than that last one that I did last week. This is a delicious little brew. You see me sipping a little bit before we started the show. It's delicious. And that is my IPA of the week. If you got a little bit of change in your pocket and you want to drink a nice adult beverage, run to the store and get you that right there. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Fizz Ed Music. This is Urban Politics. We're going to do it again next week. Talk about this political thing. There's always stuff to talk about. As always, what can I say, man? Like I said, it's Urban Politics. Where politics lives. See you around like a donut.